people can see if you're genuine about dedication to the religion.
For people who don't know, I started doing all of this back in 2013.
What do you think is the number one misconception that people probably have about your career?
I think people who don't follow football just think it's a bunch of crazy people running after a ball, and it's like, yo, why are you doing this?
Welcome to Keep Hustling. Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. #Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. And of course, now and always, keep hustling. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Ariel Meirov. Thank you so much for being here.
Aaron, it's great to be on with you. It's been a long time coming. We've been working on this, I feel like, for a number of months. A few things happened in my personal life, great things, and then there were work things, and then we finally made it happen over here. So I'm really excited to be here.
I'm happy we're doing this. And what I will say is that one of the things that everyone who's listening, in addition to reading your bio, because I begin almost every episode by telling people they should read the bio, is I think us connecting on this is a great story of Keep Hustling in that I reached out to you, but we're from the same community. We've never actually met in person, but what really made it happen is a mutual connection of people who have also been on the podcast. Shout out to the HSL duo. And sometimes in life, it's about, and maybe there's a great way to start, like it's just about the connections, building relationships, and you never know where one relationship is going to lead to the next one. And so I appreciate you for coming on. I want to actually, let's begin there. What do you think is like the most defining moment in your career that nobody would expect? Everyone, again, I'm going to say read the bio. Ari's one of like the top 2-3 most famous people we've ever had on the podcast. You should follow him on all the social media platforms just so you can have NFL news. Nothing positive about the Jets, but there's never anything positive about the Jets, so it's totally fine. But like, what do you think is that moment that nobody knows that happened behind the scenes that was just the surprising, pivotal moment in your career?
You know, if we talk just solely about work, there's a number of things. If we talk about just the overall perspective that I take when I do all this, because I am an Orthodox religious Jew and I do this, um, during the days where you're allowed to, right? Shabbos, I'm completely off. Holidays, I'm completely off. I've like interviewed on a few other Jewish shows, including like a Nachum Segal show. Like I speak about just, you know, sometimes football and Shabbos could collide, and it's very rare, but it does sometimes. Like the NFL draft, and like there's different ways of also making it work. And like I've told him before, I literally go to the West Coast, Seattle during the draft, just so I could take care of the second round on Shabbos. Like there's like the little things like that.
Hold on. I'm just going to interrupt you just for a second so that everyone understands the absolute insanity, incredible insanity that you just spit out. I'm just going to interrupt you, just if that's okay, just explain what you just said. So basically, we are offline as Orthodox Jews for 25 hours from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday. And that means offline. That means no phones, no internet, no news, no nothing. So what Ari's saying is that he goes to the West Coast, to Seattle, for the second round of the NFL draft, because then the Sabbath will end before the draft starts or just around when the second round starts.
So
I mean, if you're in New York,
it's about the Sabbath starting. So it's about the Sabbath starting. So the second round of the draft, second and third round, is on Friday night. It starts at 7:00 Eastern time. During that time of the year in New York, Shabbos literally starts at 7:00. So if you go to the West Coast and 7:00 Shabbos starts there, that's really 10 Eastern in New York. So you're able to take care of that over there and then enjoy Shabbos there. So there's little things like that. I always just remind myself of where I came from and who I am and the family and the religion and all of that, that's always important to me. And I have a lot of Jewish friends, shul, whatever it is, they always talk to me about what I do. And I always try to emphasize that part of it about remembering where you came from. And I know it's cool to cover the NFL, and all of us as kids enjoyed it. I'm very grateful that I'm able to do it. But I think the bigger picture is something that's always important to me, and I always try to bring that up to people whenever I have those discussions with religious people.
I think that's amazing. And you know what? I wasn't going to take this podcast there, but I love where we're going. So we're just going to keep rolling with it. That's what Keep Hustling is all about. What I think is amazing is that if you ask the average person who's contemplating incorporating religion more into their life, Judaism mostly, but other religions also, the, they feel that there are so many restrictions that are going to stand in their way. And I don't know, you're obviously a much more public figure than I am, but what I can say is a few things. One, most people, obviously the NFL draft is not waiting for you, but most people in most scenarios, if they can accommodate you, I think will. And I think people can see if you're genuine about your dedication to the religion. And if they do, again, the NFL draft is not waiting for any one person, but it could be a different meeting. It could be something else that happens. It could be kosher food. It could be any of that stuff. And I tell people all the time, like, if you just actually believe in it, most people will respect it. And by the way, the people who don't, you probably don't want to hang out with anyway.
I think it's very important that people understand that because, I grew up obviously in a religious home and I went to religious schools and yeshivas and all of that. But I think it's something that has always stuck with me. Like the basics are really important. And I know of people who probably struggle with the idea of whether it's keeping a Shabbos or a holiday or keeping kosher or whatever. And whenever I have those discussions with those people about what I do and the job that I do and covering the NFL and talking about players and coaches and executives and the people that they watch on TV, they all find it to be amazing. But whenever I shift the conversation to what I'm able to do on the Shabbats and everything, that's when I think they get a different perspective on life. And I think that's something that always kind of sticks with me because they look at me in one way, but when they realize this entire other part of me, they also want to become better at that part of their life as well. And that's something that is always very unique and cool to me. And it's something that always makes me happy whenever I'm able to have those conversations wherever it is. If it's in a shul or walking the neighborhood or whatever it is, I think that part of me is something that I always try to stress as well. And it's very, very important.
What I would say to you is, I think it's what's amazing is that you probably when you tell the average person who doesn't know what Shabbos and what Yontif, the holidays, and what being and what just being a devoted Jew means, and then you finish explaining it to them, or they ask you the questions, and then if you rewind, and then there's this moment of wait, hold on a second, everything has been accomplished. The workaround, which is not a religious loophole, flying to Seattle, bringing your own food places, doing those type of things, it almost says to the person, what excuse do I have to implement in my life whatever I want religiously? You and I are passionate about Orthodox Judaism. It could be that, but it could be anything else where a person says, there was an article yesterday about how many more people, this is going to, shock you just because of what you do professionally, but are trying to get rid of their smartphones because they feel like it's invading on their ability to have private time. Now we're lucky. We have families, but we have Shabbos and holidays where my kids read books and we play board games together and we have that forced time. So it's an amazing thing how you mean to tell me that I could engage with my family, have religious observance, have a career, build a brand, do all that stuff, and also live the life that I want. So I think that's incredibly powerful. What was it like when you came up with that Seattle idea? I don't want to dwell on it, but that's a why didn't you go to further west? I don't know, 24 hours away,
Seattle
whatever.
is the most furthest you can go from a Shabbos start time in America. You could, I guess Hawaii technically is also an option, but that's just too much. But yeah, that's when it was probably 2019 when I thought of the idea, and that's really for people who don't know. I started doing all of this back in 2013, and it took a couple of years for there to be any relevance. Like 2015, 2016 is when I saw any sort of glimpses of, a following and people who are reporters or players who started following what I do. But in 2019, when I really felt like this thing was taking off and going from a side hustle to something that has potential to become my main, way of making a living, um, the NFL draft, for people who don't know, is a gigantic event on the football calendar. It's arguably after the Super Bowl, it might be two or three. Like fans are very, very into that because it's new players coming from college into the NFL, and every single team is able to pick players, and those players are young guys who could have an impact on your team for this upcoming season and for the future, the next 10 years. Like they could become superstars. So
And it's
it's
also
a
another
very, very
chance
big
for the
deal.
Jets to blow it.
That's been
You
the
don't
history
you
as
don't
of
have to
late.
comment on it. In case you can't tell, this is a 37 years of just built up
I have Jets
Jet
fans in my
fandom.
life as well.
Yeah.
But it is a very, very big deal. So I would cover the first round, which is on Thursday night. So that's easy. But then Friday night would come along, and the NFL draft, for people who don't know, it's 7 rounds. So the first round is on Thursday night. The second and third round is Friday night. Then rounds 4 to 7, which I care about, but fans start, tuning away once it gets there. That's on Saturday. So I miss that regardless where I am. But I want to get that second and third round because it's pretty important. There's still really good players who are available, and I could tell by the analytics that my following really, really cares about it. So I thought about it, and I was still, I wasn't married yet. I was still talking to my brothers and people about the idea, and they were like, "Listen, you're in a path right now where this thing has a chance of actually going somewhere. You're doing it the right way. You're not doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing as an Orthodox Jew. If you're able to still keep Shabbos and go there and find the shul and do what you got to do, then make it happen." So I did it the first year. It was seamless. I found the place. I found where to go. Went to shul. Did everything, and it all worked out. And from then on, it's been just a yearly tradition that every late April for the draft, I go down there.
I absolutely love this. Again, I don't want to stay just on the Seattle thing, but I'm imagining like I was in Mobile, Alabama, and I called a Chabad there to get food, and my friend that I was staying with was just absolutely marveling at this whole, like this infrastructure that we have. But I'm just imagining the first call you made in Seattle about like a Shabbos minyan, and you're like, yeah, and then you get the shul and they ask you why you're there, and you tell them because you cover the NFL draft. They're probably like, oh, this is actually pretty. We weren't expecting this. We were expecting a guy whose flight got delayed or something. So I also am incredibly inspired by the fact that, especially now in 2025, you're on the forefront of a political insane time. We don't have to talk about pros and cons, but it's insane. And yet you double down on the religion. You're not, I mean, I can't imagine, in this episode, if you're not watching, I'm wearing a yarmulke, I'm not wearing a baseball cap on purpose. And, you are too. And it's like the few comments that I get, like, I can't even imagine what it is. And to me, everyone out there should be inspired because if you listen to Ari's story, you should really be saying, like, what I run from, it's like the buffalo that runs into the storm. So, not that you're looking for that, but you know what I'm saying. Meaning, like, you would have it's like the same thing as Shabbos. You could have a built-in excuse to say, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be in the public. It's not worth the things that come my way. So, what's it like?
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I mean, I try not to, what I do, I never talk about myself. That's the cool thing about it. Like I'm always talking about teams and players and coaches and GMs and moves that are being made, signings, injuries, hirings, firings, those type of things. So it's never about me, and I always try to make sure that's understood. And every post that I do make, it's about the team or the player. So do people know of my work? Do people see my face on there? Do people see my shows and whatever? Yeah, they do. But ultimately, my goal and what I do is to talk about, the league itself and what's going on and basically get everybody informed on what's happening. My entire job of what I do is essentially keeping fans up to date on what's happening around the NFL. And my account essentially is a one stop shop for all of it. But there's never a point where I'm pointing the finger at me and trying to say, hey, this is me. Hey, I have this amount of followers. Hey, I'll sign an autograph. Like I don't do that. That's not what I do. So it's more about just what my job is, and that's it. And I never try to put the spotlight on myself.
Was there a particular story or moment when you were like, you have to like pinch yourself? I can't believe that I'm breaking this story, or like that this is this, or this means I made it. The fact that this person is reaching out to me means I built a relationship with them, but like I'm serious. They're not calling anybody else. Like I broke this. Like take us through that because I think that a lot of people, as I mentioned to you before we went live, view success sometimes as they think it should be easier than it is, but sometimes they think it's impossible. And if your story shows anything, it's that anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, there are many stories. Like for me, any story that I do post, it's kind of funny. Like I remember where I was when I posted it. Like I remember stories. Like people remember things in their life, whatever it is. Like I remember like each little story in the NFL, when it happened, where I was, where was I tweeting it from? Like I remember all those different things. But early on, there's a few stories that come to mind. The There's two stories of where I felt like, okay, this might be something where I could actually, make a living out of this. Number one, around 2017, um, when I was just posting stuff, didn't really have much of a following. One of these, I would call him a star player in the NFL at the time, randomly private messaged me. It was the first time ever that a player messaged me. And he asked me a question about something to do with his salary and the Pro Bowl and whatever. But the fact that a player was reaching out to me, and at the time I'm a nobody, basically. I still feel
Did
like
you
I'm a
think it was
nobody, but
fake?
no, I knew it was real because we just followed each other, but like I didn't know that I never started a conversation with him. Like he initiated it. So that felt like a big deal to me. And then the second one, and I've mentioned it before somewhere, I've told this to people privately. I know you've had him on the show. I grew up loving newsbreakers. Like the Chris Mortensons, the Jay Glazers, the Adam Schefters. Like I literally follow them like crazy as a kid. Like I loved seeing how they report on news. So it was around 2017, 2018 when Adam private messaged me all of a sudden, and I kind of felt starstruck because I followed his work forever, like I said, and he basically said, "Hey, you do a really great job. If I can ever help with anything, just let me know." And when that happened, that was when it just felt like, oh my God, like
I'm in the club.
there's
Like we're working. We're colleagues.
right.
We're
And like
colleagues.
once you end up on the phone with him, it's like, wait, I'm actually talking to him. It's like
And then he
crazy,
hangs up
right?
on you because he has a piece of news to break.
Not that time, but it's happened before in recent days. But yeah, that's like that those are the two, crazy stories that I had early on, which made me, as the show is called, keep hustling and just keep on doing it. And eventually the success started to come. But like I've told many people who ask me about what I do, the first 3, 4 years of doing this, I did not have much of a following. I literally was probably posting to nobody. Like I don't even know what I was doing. You could find tweets from 2013, 2014 with probably 2 views. It's like me and my brother. Like there was nobody. You know what I mean? So it takes time and it's a grind. But if you keep on doing it, eventually people recognize it and it goes somewhere.
I want to go back to something else you said that's related to that also, which is uh, you said that you try your hardest, and you do a very good job of it, by the way, of not making it about you. And I imagine that at a certain point, the celebrity appeal, it's celebrity is not for everyone, but I do imagine that there has to be a certain point when it's like, I wonder if I plugged myself a little more, X, Y, and Z would happen. Yet you stayed the course of, and I assume that, and just because I understand who I follow and why I follow you. Had you done that, had you made it at all about you probably wouldn't see the success that you have. Yet a lot of people feel in business that they have to make it all about them. And obviously, I realize I have a podcast. I'm a podcast host, but I try to highlight our guests in that, like so many people, I think, don't realize that you can see incredible success even from the side or the shadow, right? You want to be with the players. You can't break the news if you're not with the GMs, if you're not communicating with them. But at the end of the day, you're breaking someone else's news. And so if it's more about you than it is about them, then they probably won't want to have you be that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. It's what I do is 100% a relationship business, and whenever I speak to whoever it is around the NFL, like we do talk about ourselves and what's going on with life and how's everything going and what have you been doing lately. Like we do that. Like but it's all in private. Like anybody who actually knows me, I know we're from the same neighborhood. Like I am like the most private person to get. Like I don't love talking about myself. I just keep everything to my own circle, my family. That's like I'm really not the biggest. I've never been a big me person. I'm more of helping others. Like that's truly who I've always been. So I've never had that mindset, or it never even came to mind of like, hey, let me pump myself up today here on my page and talk about what I did 4 years ago and how this happened and how my career took off. Like, it's never been a thought of mine. Like, I never like, I don't like attention. I was never an attention person growing up, in school, after, like everything. I was never my type of a thing. I like talking about others. I like helping others. That's who I've always been. And if you would have told me years ago that this would be what I would be doing, I would also be surprised. Like, I don't ever think of myself as being on camera, but here I am. So it was just never my type of a thing, though, to take the credit and put the attention to myself.
Okay, two things on that. Very nice for you to say that you're always the quiet guy. I've met most of your brothers. You didn't really have much of a choice. I mean, at a certain point, like it was either, getting crushed or being the actual football that they played with. But that's a shout out to the entire incredible Meirov family from Queens, who just amazing, amazing people. But I think the other really, and on a serious note, I think the very inspiring things that I hope that our listeners really zero in on what you're saying is that you don't have to be the loud out there guy or gal to be successful. Like I happen to be, I'm an extrovert. It's my personality. But a lot of the most successful people in business, and even in a business that's about like breaking news, you don't have to be the loudest person in the room. Now that doesn't mean that if you are the loud out there type that you should squash your personality. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that you can have the personality like yours and not want to change that and not change yourself for anyone else and still see that success. Meaning not to get deterred by saying I'm in a room and I feel, like I'm overwhelmed or that these people are louder or smarter or better looking or have more followers than I do. Like you've figured out that you can really be true to yourself and see a level of success that every single listener here would love. So I love that.
I'll just say one thing I have realized is people notice. Like, people will notice eventually. Like, you could do your work, put your head down, and do what you got to do. And eventually people will realize, hey, he's doing a lot of work. He's doing good work. He's somebody who I would love to meet. He's somebody I would love to get his number and build a relationship with in our line of business. So, like, that's something that it happens if you do it the right way. And I've realized that in my personal life. I've realized that in my work life. I mean, I literally have my own show, which I do. It's called NFL Spotlight, which the show literally entails spotlighting other people. And I go through their lives and their journeys and how they got to where they are today. And after every single interview, people like always ask me, like, hey, I really appreciate you talking about me because I never had anyone, kind of talk about how I got here and you did that. And I'm really appreciative of that. And whenever I do that, I build a relationship with that person now for many years to come because of it. So there are many different ways of doing this stuff without pumping your chest. And I've always been a believer in that. And to this point, it's kind of worked if we're being honest over here. So
What do you think is the number one misconception that people probably have about your career and your line of work?
I think people who don't follow football just think it's a bunch of crazy people running after a ball, and it's like, yo, why are you doing this? But I think it's a beautiful sport, which is the number one sport in this country, and there's many great people involved with it. I mean, everyone just thinks about the players who do a lot of great things, by the way, but it's not just them. I mean, the coaches in the league, the executives in the league, the agents, the owners, by the way, a lot of them are Jewish. It's very much like a lot of these people are great people, and being able to work with them and build relationships with them is is a great thing. Like, people just look at football who don't follow football, care about football, as if it's some crazy insane sport, and it's like, why on earth are you doing this? It's such a weird job. Um, once you actually understand what the sport is and who the people involved are, it's a pretty cool thing to do. And obviously, as you know, I have a lot of people who care about football and follow football, and I talk to them all the time about it, and they kind of get it and they find it fascinating. But I think people who don't understand football just think it's kind of weird. But once they actually realize what it is and the people who are involved, they find it very interesting.
I think I watch a lot of football. As I said, I'm not going to mention the team of which I am a fan because it's just not worth it at this point. And I feel like you're trolling me with some of the stuff in your background. But the I think a huge misconception about football is that that the players are not smart. Like they're just athletes who make things. I have spent some time, obviously not as much as you, but like analyzing what goes into an actual football play. Like where every person has to be and how they have to be and what they have to assume, not just the quarterback, and how they have to understand every single player. And by the way, the scouts and the teams and look at signals. It's an incredibly complicated mental game. And I think that a lot of people, it's like that the John Gruden camp in before the draft. Like you watch some of that stuff and you realize like, yeah, the quarterback is pretty important, but like
Yeah, everybody.
everybody, and it's an amazing thing of how, and if the trainer didn't get this right or there's the wrong cleats on the player's shoe for that field surface or that weather, it could mean
Yeah.
tens of millions of dollars for the player, for the owner, and for the sport. So I think it's incredibly amazing and complex. I have a great story for you. I'm not going to tell you the names, but you just reminded me of this when you spoke about relationships outside of football. I was once, I could tell you who they are after, but I was once with a huge vendor of the NFL, and we were talking about Judaism and the strangest things that have happened to him. And he's very involved politically, and he once met the cardinal from New York, the head of the archdiocese in New York. So he's an Orthodox Jew and basically the leading Catholic in New York. And he told me that he was once at the Super Bowl, and there was a big commotion around a few owners. And he was talking to them, "I can help you. What's going on? This and that." And the guy basically said to him, "I have one problem that you cannot solve. Impossible for you to solve." This is like 20 years ago. Impossible for you to solve. He's like, "I'm here to help you. You're the owner. You guys support my business. How can I help you?" And the guy says, basically, "My daughter just turned 18, and I'm taking her to Rome in a couple of weeks, and I'd really like a private audience with the Pope. And I can't find a way to get to the Pope. And you're an Orthodox Jew. You can't help me." He's, hold on 1 second, takes out his phone, calls basically the Archdiocese of New York, and connects this owner with the Pope. And like, so but you're laughing because it's funny, but it's amazing how relationships can play out, but also
Yeah.
just listening, just being a sponge for an angle to help people. Because if it's, as you said, and I think the theme of this podcast really, if it's not about you, it's about God, it's about family, it's about relationships, it's about the players, it's about the people that you represent, then you could see great success. So I think that's really, really incredible. Can I ask you about the gold football over your right shoulder? I'm just curious what that is for those who are
Yeah,
watching.
that was from the NFL's 100th season. They for whatever reason started selling gold footballs, and one was sent to me, and a lot of stuff behind me were all sent to me by teams. So most of it. So that was one of them. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It
what's
sticks
it
out, you know?
again? Like you're the guy. You get gifts from NFL teams. Like, come on, this is unbelievable. Here's the guy from Queens.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, these helmets look nice in the background. I mean, I kind of like yours more. I mean, it looks more professional, but it's pretty cool to get some stuff, whether it's signed or just a helmet or a ball or a bobblehead or whatever. Like whenever you open stuff from the mail and it's like from an NFL team, it's a cool feeling.
Do you ever get starstruck anymore?
Yeah, I do. I mean, because every single day I do kind of pinch myself that this is kind of what I do for a living. It's not like there's definitely it's definitely work and it's definitely hard and it's not a 9 to 5 and I wish more people understand that, but it's something that I don't feel like it's work. Like I heard when I was in school from one of my rabbis about just how important it is to do something that you love when you grow up and come home happy every single day. And I'm able to say every single day I come home happy because this is what I do and I don't feel like it's work. So I'm grateful for it every single day, even though sometimes it feels like a lot. It's still I would never trade this job for anything.
I have one last question, and that is, I think one of you said there was a lot of great things going on in your personal life. I think you got married, right? Is that true?
It is true.
Okay, take us through trying to explain to a female who you're interested in and potentially going to build a life with that you have literally, other than Shabbos and Yom Tov, which we've already covered, 24/6, no such thing as a 9 to 5. Like, what is that like? I love talking about
Yeah.
relationships as it relates to hustle and success.
Yeah.
So maybe this will be a good way to end before we get to our close. But like, what was it like? And obviously, I imagine you're going to say that she supports you 100% and all that kind of stuff. But still, there has to be a moment where you're like, this could, like, she really shouldn't buy into this, probably, if we're being honest.
Yeah, so like you said, she does support me 100%, and that's great. It's a difficult thing to explain in the shidduchim world, especially in the Jewish world, which most girls don't care about sports. So you really have to explain it down to the simplest way possible. And the only way I was
You're like,
able
you have no idea how cool I am. Like, you have no
Mm,
idea how many people
no,
wish
no,
that
I
they had the
definitely
cell
did
phone
not.
numbers
I
that I
didn't pump myself up. I
have.
will say that. But I did explain that there are times of times of the year where I'm very busy, and there's times of the year where I'm not so busy. And it's similar to any other job. Like an accountant has his tax season. So I have my free agency season. And I told her, that's March to April. So yeah, you got to explain it in simple terms, and she understood it really well, and she was all in on it, and her family understood it, and she understood it's a form of parnasa, even though it's not the common way in the neighborhood for most guys, but it works, and as I said, she's very supportive of it, and the best
And her
decision
brothers were
ever
like,
made.
"This guy's really cool. Like, you don't understand how cool this guy actually is. Like, you should just marry him just because we want to be related to him." I have to
Um,
do this because this is going to air before the season, so I have to do this, and then I'm going to get to our close. I promise. What's with the Jets this season? What's going to be?
so I'll say this: last year, as you know, a lot of our mutual friends are Jets fans. So last year I was very over, one really high on them. Let's just say like that, and it flopped in my face. So I'm not going to make an official prediction, but what I will say is I am very impressed by the way they've changed everything in a way where you don't hear about them anymore. What I mean by that is previously they would have all these reports and leaks and negative things coming out, and it felt like a circus there with the New York Jets. This year, with this new GM and head coach and new people, and they still have a lot of tremendous young talent on the team, it's very quiet. And what I've learned from my time covering the NFL, the teams with not so much attention around them and not many people talking about them are the ones who surprise us the most once the year starts. So that's what I'm going to say about the New York Jets. I'm not going to say playoffs or whatever. It would be great to have them back in the playoffs because when they are, New York, where we both live, is buzzing like crazy. But it hasn't happened in a long time. But I am excited about the future because they do have some long term pieces there. We'll see about the quarterback, but I do like the fact that they've toned it down this offseason in a big way.
Okay, so to my two brothers, Ben and Daniel, you basically just heard from an expert that we're going to the Super Bowl this year because wherever the Jets are in the Super Bowl, like we're going. So you can, and if you don't like it, I know where he lives, so just let me know, and we can hunt him down. No, but I really appreciate it. And again, as I said, I really appreciate you taking out of your very busy schedule. I know we're a couple minutes over. Really thank you again for being here. I'm going to tell everyone to follow you, whether you're into sports or not. You should just see what Ari's built, and it's really incredible. As you know, we have a closing tradition on this podcast where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational or inspirational quote and what it means to them. So with that, I will turn the floor back over to you and say, Ariel Meirov, thank you again for being here.
So, first of all, before I answer the question, this feels like my own show because my show, the last question I ask every guest is who do you think should be in the spotlight next? And I put them on the spot. I'm happy you told me before to start thinking because if you didn't, I would literally be stuck right now. So, we actually mentioned it briefly on the show, but we were talking about, everything is possible, nothing is impossible. So, I do remember just a quote that I heard a long time ago, but it's definitely something that has popped up into my head a few times over the years. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says I'm possible. So that is one that has kind of stuck with me, and it's definitely something that has affected my life, and I've seen it come to fruition a little bit. And it's something everyone should definitely live by because there's no such thing as impossible. Anything you put your head into and try and grind and really push forward and learn and research. Nowadays, it's the easiest time in the world to do research, and if you really do that, it's definitely possible.
Ariel, I love that. I actually didn't even think about the fact that it says I'm possible in there. So we are totally we're gonna take that. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good. Keep hustling, just like Ariel, and stay at it. Thanks again for being here. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.